this is my talk, making good games. But that isn't really what this should be called. A more accurate title for this talk would be me and my big mouth. I've spoken at Edinburgh a few times before. I have a habit of saying slightly intemperate things when I come. And last time I spoke here, I said something that I've been feeling bad about ever since. And so I thought I'd use today's session to kind of address some of that guilt and regret. And this is it. This is what I said. And there was a sort of collective wince when I fired it out into the audience with great arrogance and determination. And it's sort of haunted me from that day to this. Now, it's not haunted me because it's not true. We know games change us. We often don't think about it. We're very, very focused on what happens on the screen and not necessarily very focused on what happens to the people looking at the screen. But you all know, because you all play games, the ways in which games change you. All kinds of extraordinary ways that games reach out from the screen into your life. Games change your bodies. Anyone who put a lot of time into the first Halo on the old big Xbox pad may have developed the claw. Anyone else end up with the claw to access the grenade buttons better? That was a physiological change. The people in Bungie reached out and changed how the bones and muscles work in your hands. That's extraordinary. They changed our vocabularies. The highlight of my career so far was being invited on Radio 4's Word of Mouth, which any Radio 4 / lexicography geeks here would be very excited about. Not a big Venn diagram, that. To talk about gaming vocabulary, to talk about the fact that we're now using words that have originated, that my vocabulary is peppered with zerging or spawning or levelling up or getting shines or whatever it is that I've picked up from the time that I've spent in games. They change our social lives. Boy, do they change our social lives. I have a load of friends that I met in games, people who transitioned from being guildmates to real-world friends. I have people who I know in the real world who I only see now online, who are, perhaps busy parents. We carve out an hour a month to have a quick round of Left 4 Dead or something similar. I have a bunch of people who I don't see anymore because I'm gaming. Really, really big impact on who we know, what we talk about, where we see those people when we do talk. They change our bank balances. I'm confident I'm not the only whale in the room, but I'm currently the only whale on stage. A lot of what Nicholas was saying about World of Warcraft spend certainly applies to me. And when you do that horrible thing of looking around your living room and totting up the gaming collection, it can be a sobering moment. Dotting up my monthly iTunes App Store spend is a sobering moment. Really aware of this at the moment, totally changed our reading habits in that I've stopped reading. Really problematic. Sometimes they just fine-tune skills that we have. Quite a lot of evidence that brain surgeons actually perform better if they play a lot of games. There's a whole focus level thing and a hand-eye coordination thing. Haven't tested it myself. Any volunteers happy to give it a go after the session? Games definitely change our interior decor. That might not immediately be obvious to you, but in my house, on the living room wall, there's a handsome, slightly sort of avant-garde black dent in one of the walls where I threw a shoe after a particularly difficult boss battle. Has remodelled my house. So I don't feel bad about saying it because it isn't true. There's no question that games reach out and change the people who play them, and there's no question that we should be thinking about that when we make games. The reason I feel bad about saying it is because I'm a massive hypocrite. I don't always manage to even ask the question, how am I trying to change the people who play this game's lives about my own games, let alone answer it. And over the last 2 years, with these words ringing in my ears, I've kind of been really conscious of how I might try and think about that better and how I might change the way that I approach making games to kind of live up to my own polemic, which is always a dangerous thing to try and do. So I sat down and treated this with some seriousness. I thought, okay, I have an opportunity here. I'm playing things that hundreds of thousands, millions of people are playing in some cases. I'm taking their time, taking their money, taking their attention, changing their hands. What is it? What am I trying to do? How do I want these people's lives to be different? What do I want to have changed for them through playing my games? And I found my answer. This is my answer. This is my answer because this is the best pictorial expression I can find. Look how happy he is, naked on his walrus. And I love that. And that, it's a really simple idea, but it's a really powerful idea. What does it look like if I start trying to make games that will make it easier for people to be happy, people who perhaps don't have their own walrus, don't have these opportunities open to them? Now, I'm not the only person thinking along those lines. Channel 4, in the last few years, has also been thinking about these issues, about mental health, about happiness, about state of mind, about whether or not some of their gaming output could address some of those issues. So last year, Channel 4 commissioned a big bunch of research into happiness, into what it is and why it matters and how it can be encouraged. And that produced a huge document with lots of kind of analysis of current scholarship and current research. And one of the pieces of information that I found extraordinary within that is this estimation that a group of psychologists have made through a big survey of a bunch of research and a bunch of scholarship in terms of what is it, what governs our state of mind, what makes us happy or unhappy. And their overall assessment was that there's a very big genetic component, that there are happy people and less happy people. Circumstances which you might think, or certainly from a day-to-day basis, are often what feel like make the biggest difference in your mood, actually not that big a determiner of how happy you are. But volitional activity, the stuff that you choose to do, makes up the rest of that. So 40% of the quality of your mood is determined by the stuff that you choose to spend your time doing. But hang on a minute. What we know, more stats on this morning, what we know is that what more and more of us are choosing to do, what more and more of us are putting our volitional activity time into, is gaming. So there's a bunch of stats. This is kind of a middling estimation drawn partly from NPD and partly from other sources of information about how much time we're spending. And if you're spending 20 or 40 hours a week on gaming, that's a huge proportion of your volitional time is spent in games. And if 40% of your happiness is based on how you're spending the volitional activity time that's available to you, you can do those sums, and where that gets you is here. This slide, when I did the sums, basically terrified me. If gaming is a big proportion of people's spare time, if 40% of that determines their mood, the things that we are getting them to do, the ways in which we're filling that time for them, are having this big an impact on their state of mind. 26%. Terrifying, completely terrifying. So, having blithely got up here 2 years ago and say we should all take this too seriously, when I run the numbers on it, I start to realise just kind of what a daunting task this is, of what a kind of degree of responsibility it is to bear. So, how do you start? What's your first step? Where do you turn to try and come up with some tools and some strategies for thinking about how you might live up to that? Obvious, you're all thinking it. It's the only sensible thing, right? Now, marshmallows, not completely chosen at random. A number of you might guess where this is going. I need to do a clumsy little one of these. And I'm going to show you a little video so that many of you will know. This is a video of a famous psychology experiment where young children are given a marshmallow and they're told that they're going to be left alone for just a couple of minutes. And in that time, they can eat the marshmallow if they want. But if they don't eat the marshmallow, they'll get another marshmallow when the researcher comes back. So that's it. They've just got a choice. They can eat the marshmallow or keep it and get another marshmallow. And this is a little video of what happens when you run that experiment. There's no one else in the room and they don't know they're being filmed. I'm going to go do something and then I'll come back.
It smells yummy. It smells really good.
There's minutes of this that I would love to show you, but I probably shouldn't. What's really interesting, in fact, I'll say it while I talk a little over it. Actually, this is a really important experiment because it's a really good indicator of success levels in later life. It's a better indicator of success levels than levels of education or even of social class. The kids who are able to control themselves and not eat the marshmallow do better. And the kids who manage not to eat marshmallows are actually the kids who have strategies to distract them. So kids who do things, who talk to each other, who remove themselves from the presence of the marshmallow. So some smart kids turn their back on it so they're not having to deal with it, or they put it away, or they do something else, or they sing a song, or they just eat it, or pretend to eat it. And I love this experiment. I think it's enormously entertaining, but also kind of very indicative. And I was sort of looking at that and thinking about that. And you recognise the truth in it, right? The minute somebody tells you that the kids who manage not to eat the marshmallow are the ones that go on to be successful, you go, yeah, that figures. I believe that makes sense. And you think, yeah, it's really important to, instill that in your children and kind of teach them to understand the value of deferred gratification. But there's something else about that annoys me, and I was thinking about it so much, and I was in the middle of running a little game-making project at a local school and working with some kids with Game Maker to teach them a bunch of kind of basic game design principles. And I was thinking about it so much, I thought I would make a marshmallow game. This is my marshmallow game. 5-minute disclaimer, this is not a labour of love. And I wanted to use gaming to explore this marshmallow idea, and I particularly wanted to use it to explore the thing I hate about the marshmallow experiment, which is that it's sensible and practical and important and miserable and soul-destroying and ghastly to watch all of these kids not eat the marshmallow and move into this world of adulthood where they have to not have the wonderful, brilliant, delicious thing in front of them just because a grown-up says that it's kind of irresponsible. So in my incredibly simple game, there's a marshmallow, helpful arrow pointing to marshmallow. You can click on the marshmallow if you want, but if you click on the marshmallow, you get another marshmallow, and if you click on that marshmallow, you get another marshmallow, and if you click on that marshmallow, you get another marshmallow. And there are infinite marshmallows and infinite points, and that's it. So this is kind of slight protest gaming outburst, just about something that bothered me about that experiment. But what it made me realise is I was taking a first tiny, tiny little baby step into trying to encapsulate these important behavioural patterns and kind of underlying decision-making elements within a game framework in a way that was interesting. So using games as a way of kind of explicating and exploring psychological research. So that was going on in the back of my mind. At the same time, Channel 4's research project was coming to a head. And what they found from the research, the most valuable thing to do in terms of particularly addressing teenage mental health problems is not actually try and tackle any severe mental health problems, partly, of course, because those are extraordinarily sophisticated and complicated conditions which need to be handled very carefully and very specifically on a case-by-case basis. But also, they don't necessarily afflict that large a percentage of the population. There's a huge majority number of people who will experience mental distress, but not actual mental illness. And they got very focused on producing a game that was going to be about not mental health, but about mental resilience, which is a very big buzzword for anybody who's kind of working in the field at the moment, which is about trying to give people the coping strategies they need to deal mentally with things when things go really badly wrong.